The first 5 years of life are the fastest period of human growth and development, as 90% of a person's brain development occurs by the age of 5. Parents, we have some work to do. I'm Dr. Nefertiti Pointer, a first-time mom at the age of 41, with over 2 decades of experience as a teacher, speaker, and researcher in the fields of early care and education and adult well-being. Welcome to a space for moms who are raising children prenatal through age 8. You're not alone, and we will do this together, just as soon as I can find my glasses. Madison, have you seen my glasses?
No. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Geriatric Mom Podcast. I am your host and your geriatric mom, Dr. Nefertiti Pointer, and I think I always need to say this. I do not hold on or title myself geriatric. That's what the medical field calls a woman who decides to have a baby after the age of 35. And so that is me. But this space is this geriatric mom who did have a baby at the age of 41. I'm taking my almost 9 years of experience being a mom, and I am coupling that with my over 2 decades of experience in early care and education and adult well-being. And I'm hopefully creating a space where you look forward to coming to get some knowledge around just how to do this parenting thing. Because listen, I am doing this podcast because I really believe in just saying things the way they need to be said and getting children the skills that they need, because they only get a chance to be a child once. And because of that, we have to make sure we're doing our absolute best. And so because the same skill that it takes to make the baby is not the same skill to raise the baby, I'm going to do my best, as long as God continues to give me breath, to hope that this podcast gets into the hands of that person that needs to hear it. And so welcome to the Geriatric Mom Podcast. If you're listening to me on Apple or Spotify, hey. And if you're over here on YouTube, I'm glad that you're here for the visual effects. So let's do it. Today's title, did it grab you? Let me tell you something, right? So I was teaching, I got a kindergarten class. Everything's going wonderful. Got a few kiddos in there who are making me think I need to go work somewhere else, but we're doing it. But there's one little girl in the room who, always doing something. Let's just say that. She's always doing something. And one day I'm talking to my families about just tone of voice and how we talk to our children. And there was this school year where I had more than one parent say to me, Miss Bruce, you talk too low. That's why the children don't listen to you. You talk too low. And I said, well, tell me what you mean when you say I talk too low. Well, at home, I don't use that voice that you use. That's why that's why she's not doing what you tell her to do. I said, okay, all right. So, I then explained to my families, and a few families in particular, about a speaking voice, right? If I go around yelling at my children all the time, when I need to get their attention, what voice am I supposed to use? See, as a teacher, if you heard me raise my voice, then you knew we were at a point where enough was enough. And that was very seldom. I'm going to do I'm going to try more strategies before raising my voice is one. I'm not going to look at this podcast camera and say I never did raise my voice, because we're always going to be honest over here. Of course, there were some moments where I had to use something higher than a speaking voice. But when a family says to me, the reason why she don't listen to you is because you don't holler, Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And this same parent is the title for today's podcast. The mama said to me, Miss Bruce, what piece of paper do you need me to sign to give you permission to hit her? It's moments like these when I wish those that are making rules and legislation around how things are going in classrooms could better understand what we go through as educators. This mother, during one of our parent-teacher conferences with a kindergarten age student, looked me dead in my face and said, "Miss Bruce, what piece of paper do you need me to sign to give you permission to hit her?" And I looked back at this mom and said, "Listen now, you about to make me lose my whole career, right? My whole teaching profession." So again, not enough time to go into detail with it in this podcast. But listen, today I did want to talk to us about just the importance of doing our part. Listen, I was also a preschool teacher before I started kindergarten. And when the data came out that preschool students are expelled at a higher rate than all children grades K to 12, did you hear what I just said? Research supports what we see in classrooms across the country. Preschool students are suspended and expelled at higher rates than all the children K to 12. And for those of you who look at those of us who teach babies, toddlers, and preschoolers, and you wonder why we're tired because you say things like, "I don't know why you're tired. All you do is play with kids all day." You need to come down and hang out with us a little bit. And you'll realize that playing with children is just a part of what we do. Because our babies are so young, they are still learning all of the skills that come with navigating, sharing space with other people, learning how to process my feelings. All of that is so new to them. So it's a developing skill. And then on top of that, there's some teacher wanting me to learn phonics and how to count and how to color in line. And then they get mad at me when I'm coloring out the lines. And yeah, I got all this stuff going on, and I've only been on this world or earth for about 4 years. So again, not in today's podcast am I going to fully pull that apart, but I did want to make sure we were all clear. The reason why I'm quieting myself and getting in front of this camera at least once a week is because those of us who are caring for babies' birth all the way through age 8, I want us to feel confident that we have done our very best to make sure our child's foundation was solid, and making sure we talk about doing our part. In our last podcast, I told you that parents and teachers should be partners in our effort. And I'm going to say this today, and I'm going to say it, and I mean everything that I say as I offer this over the airways. Parents, teachers already have enough to do in meeting the standards and guidelines and all that we're asked to do in classrooms. Disciplining your child should not be something added on to what we have to do. Now listen, again, I want to make sure I'm never misunderstood. Absolutely, building social and emotional learning in schools, I do think is something that students should have as a part of school. And I think you can teach it in math and science and social studies. You can do it in circle time. You can do it over lunch. I do believe those skills should be supported in schools. And I also believe as parents, we need to do our part to make sure we are sending a child to school who is a ready learner. Will there be some moments where schools have to do some disciplining? Absolutely. Because again, we're all still learning and we're always not going to get it right. But I am asking us today as parents, let's do our part to send children to school as ready learners, mind, body, and spirit. So once again, I'm going to do my best to give you some things to think about in a short way, and we're going to get out of here, all right? Again, I'm hoping that this podcast space is turning into a space where you feel like you have somebody who understands. I told you, I don't even know why. Listen, I was a teacher first, and I sometimes think being a teacher first taught me, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I do not want to do this. And again, it took me a few years to find a good partner and to stable myself to where I'm saying I'm ready to do it. So I'm not advocating for anybody to have no baby at 41. I am saying that it does. Motherhood is real, and it's a thing, and it's a verb, and it's action, and it's turmoil, and it's joy, and it's tears, and we want to do our very best. And so I'm hoping our podcast space is feeling like you got a place to hang out. So today when I say I had a mom who told me, "Miss Bruce, you have my permission to beat my child," we were dealing with some things around challenging behaviors. And with this little one. And I don't want today's podcast to be about challenging behaviors, because it is not. What rather I want to do is I want to help us think about, I sent a child ready to learn to school today. You know, Madison is 8 and she went to school this morning. She got up a little early. So by the time I got downstairs, Dad got our morning started. By the time I got downstairs, she was laying on the couch with her feet up watching some morning TV show. And I said, well, look at here. Don't you live the life? She said, oh, yeah, I got up early. And so Madison was ready to learn today. And again, I know what to do. And so I'm always trying my best to make sure I'm doing my part. We're doing our part as a family. And that's just what I want you to be able to do. I want you to feel like, yes, my child has pencils and paper and I pay for the field trip for next week. That's only a part of making sure your child is ready for school. There are some other things that I want to make sure you're thinking about. And I would love to start today with a reflection. All right, I want to start with a reflection. All right, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about the person you had in your life as a young person who just was so good to you. This person loved on you. This person maybe played with you. This person told you stories. You went places with this person. I don't know. This person was just your person. Who's that person? Think about that for a second or two. Now, as you think about that person and you've got the person in your mind, I want you to think about what that person did. What kind of interactions did you have with that person that are making you even think about them right now? I bet you they didn't do anything super special, did they? They didn't do anything super special, but they were there for you. And this person might be your parent. It might be your family member. You know, my mom is my person for sure. She did all the things and we didn't have all the things, but mom did as many of the things as she knew how to do. And so I also remember having Missy Lane. We lived in a row home back in Philly, and right behind when you would leave our house, you could go to the neighbors in the back. And so Missy Lane was our babysitter, and we would walk in Missy Lane's house. And inside Missy Lane's house, we had Jonesy, and we had Dawn, and we had Pam, and we had Glenn, who was her family. And I remember we used to sing songs together, and the girls of the family were sometimes our babysitters, so they would let us we would walk on their feet. And I remember singing like I think the song, I wish I could remember. I know Sister Sledge, We Are Family was one of the songs we used to sing, but there was another song. I'm gonna have to call Dawn or Pam and see if they remember, but it was a time. And if you hear me reflecting back on it, there was no special, I didn't say we went to Disney World. We took no trip to Paris. We didn't do those things. I walked out the back of my row home in Philly. I walked in the back door of Missy Lane's house, where there was music and fun and people who saw me, and they saw my brother. And as I'm asking you to send a child who is ready for school today, and I'm talking about my babies all the way up to my 3rd graders, my 8-year-olds, I want you to make sure you are seeing your child. Think about that person and what they did for you, and I want you to be that person for your child. Every child needs somebody who is crazy about them. And I want you to listen to me really well here. Before that child meets that person in after-school programming or in some sports or in their school system or in their childcare program, I want them to meet that person in the house. The person who should be crazy about them the most should be somebody that lives under their roof. Because when children don't feel like they have somebody that is crazy about them, they go searching for it. And sometimes they learn, if I turn this desk over, my teacher sits me on her lap and she massages my hair and asks me what's wrong. I like this feeling, so tomorrow I'm going to flip over another desk. When I do this, I get the whole class to stop. I'm going to do some more of that next week. When children don't have somebody who they feel like is their person, they start looking for that. And sometimes not always in positive ways. And to that person who, when I said to you, who was your person? This podcast could go on for 30 more minutes and you wouldn't be able to name a name because you didn't have a person. I want to say I understand that happens. And now you have a chance to be what you needed when you didn't have it growing up. You're not a mom by mistake. And you're everything that your child needs. The fact that you're even still watching this podcast or listening to the video, you're everything that your child needs. Can you learn some more? Can you gain some new knowledge? Absolutely. But they're here now. And it's now time to send a child ready to school, ready to learn. And the first thing you want to do is make sure that child feels seen. With that being said, I want to start today's podcast with some ideas, as I like to always do. But remember, I am not responding to necessarily children who use behaviors that we find challenging. What I am asking you to do is send children to school, childcare programs ready to learn. And you know what can happen? You'll have less behaviors because this child is ready to learn. So let's talk about what we want to do. First thing you want to do, and you've heard me say this before if you've listened to some of the other podcasts, quality time when they're out of program or school. You have to make time for quality time. But what I want to do first is I want to start with the reasons why we don't do it, okay? Because you didn't need today's podcast to tell you we need to spend time with our babies. You didn't need me to tell you that. But I did want to think about some of the reasons why we don't do it. So I wrote a list, and so I got them down here on my notes. So number one, we say we don't have enough time. I hear it all the time. I even say it. Listen to me. You don't have time not to spend time with your child, because as I just said, when you don't do it, they're going to go out and figure out how I can find other ways to have people see me, spend time with me. And when I flip over the desk, I get to go sit in the principal's office. And sometimes I come back with a lollipop. Yeah, I know that's a whole nother podcast. We're not going to have that one today. But one of the reasons why we say we don't do it is because we don't have time. The other thing we say is, I am too tired and stressed out. I've had the worst day and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not talking to you, and I'm not minimizing being tired, because I'm both of those things. I'm overworked sometimes, too much going on. I see you. I understand. And I'm talking about the barriers. Let's just continue with the barriers. Nefertiti, you do this podcast and you have one child and 3 adult bonus children. I got 6 kids. How you want me to do quality time with all of them? Come here. They didn't ask to come here. And now that they're here, game on. Game on. But no, we're not talking about that yet. We're still going over the barriers, okay? Nefertiti, I don't have support, so I can't always spend quality time. I'm a single mom. I'm by myself. I don't have support. That sometimes is a barrier. You keep telling me to spend some time with him or her. Do you know she got suspended 4 times last week from 2nd grade? And you think I'm supposed to just spend some time with her? Not gonna happen. That's another barrier sometimes people say. And then Nefertiti, I don't know how to play with children. I don't know how to do that. How am I supposed to play? What do I do? Sometimes because we say we don't know what to do, that becomes a barrier. So now let's talk about the benefits. Those are the barriers, but here are some of the benefits. Number 1, my people like me. And because my people like me, I feel a sense of self-esteem and self-worth. That's a benefit. Can you imagine sending children to school with self-esteem and self-worth? Okay, that's one of the benefits. Number 2, when I can have positive relationships with the people that are in my village, then I can go out into the world understanding that I can be in the company of others and I can have healthy relationships. I don't have to fight everybody that I meet. I can have strong attachments to other people. That's a possible benefit. I got another one down here. You get to know your child better when y'all just hang out together. So when the teacher says, or when somebody says, this is what's happening, or this is what's happening, you know what? I understand. I have some of those same challenges at home, and this is what I do. I just gave a quick scenario, because when you know your child better, then you know what to be able to tell other people, how to advise other people, you know what to expect. That's another benefit of quality time with our children. Another one, we know how to respond to behaviors because I know my child better. Another benefit of quality time with our children is just more of a harmonious household because your child's needs are being met, so the house is running better. Another possible benefit is that your children will grow up and do this with their children. You know, we have got to break some of these generational curses. When you don't know better, you perpetuate what happened to you. But today, because you're listening to this podcast, you know a little bit better. So when you know better, you can do better. And we don't have to allow these generational curses to continue. Nobody spent quality time with you as a child. You know what that looked like for your life. I was just watching a TV show the other day where the young person said she was an only child. So she started to kind of, stay by herself all the time. Her parents did not interact with her very much. She went into school. She wasn't able to make great friends. And so then she turned to the internet for her friendships. And then that turned into just a series of things that led her to bullying and just Nefertiti, is quality time the antidote to everything? I didn't say that. I am saying we're going to send children who are going to use less challenging behaviors and are more ready to learn because at home, somebody is seeing them and we're spending quality time with them. And then I have one more benefit. You ready for it? Ready for it? Children love it. They love it. And so, but let's back up a little bit. Because if you're an introvert mom like me, and I just told you have to spend all this quality time with your child, you have to make sure you listen to the podcast that I did on me being an introvert and Madison being a total extrovert, because this quality time could go all day, every day, all day, every day, all day, every day. Madison never gets tired of quality time. And so, yes, you want to do it, but you also have to make some time for yourself, because another thing that's about having a child that's ready for school is their parents are ready. Nothing's getting in the way, or they're not letting anything get in the way, and they're doing their best to make sure the child's needs are being met. And so the last benefit I was thinking about is that children love it. And so I don't know about you, but if we were to go back and number the possible barriers and look at the possible benefits, the benefits outweigh the barriers. And so as much as you can, I would like for you to think about how you can work on spending more quality time with your child as a way to make sure I'm sending a child to school ready to learn. All right, let's keep learning together. So we're not going to give any teacher, any adult permission to beat our child. We're not doing that. But what we are going to do is make sure we're doing our part to send a child to school ready to learn. And again, when we do that, we should see less challenging behaviors or behaviors that others find challenging. Now, remember, for babies, toddlers, and preschoolers, they're still learning so much of what's happening in the world. So if there are a few things that need to be corrected and redirected, that's totally normal. Totally normal. And as we go to our first graders, second graders, third graders, they're not going to always get it right. And just like they need help with, knowing how to put down a 2 and carry the 1, they may also need help in learning how to use their words, process their feelings, and to work in groups along with other people. So it's all learning. It's all learning. And oftentimes what I say about children who are sometimes not using the best behaviors according to what adults are expecting, why is it that when a child has challenges reading and writing, we spend time with them, we're super patient with them, we give them all of these different strategies, but sometimes when a child does not show us strong social and emotional behavior, we punish that? No. Discipline teaches, punishment hurts. Let's say that one more time. Discipline teaches, punishment hurts. We're not trying to hurt our children. We're trying to discipline them, which means teach. And again, there's so many things that schools are doing to try to work on this. I wanted today's podcast to be for us as families to make sure we're doing our part. So what are we going to do to make sure we're sending students to school ready to learn? Today's podcast is asking you again to make connections. to make connections. I told you the parent said to me, Miss Bruce, what you want me to do? You want me to sign a piece of paper to let you hit her? Where's the piece of paper? And I said, I'm not going to do that. And instead, what we're both going to do, I'm going to do it in the school and I'm asking you to do it at home, is I want us to see her more. I want us to see her more because this little girl would do things and then turn her head to see if I was looking to get my response. And so sometimes, again, and I'm so glad you're still listening, our children are crying out to be seen. And sometimes you can think about it as like having an empty pitcher. So this is my water cup that I sometimes have over here on the side. When you send our children to school ready to learn, they're already full. So when a teacher does circle time, that baby is ready to sing, that baby is ready to contribute because you sent them to school already filled. When children don't come to school already filled, and I try to do circle time with them, I can't get them to sit down, stand up, do nothing. They sometimes are tired. They're laying across the floor. They can't get their thoughts organized. When someone is asking them to play, they don't have their tempers are super short and they're like, get away from me, because they weren't sent to school full. Now listen, sometimes they're full and that stuff still happens. But again, today's podcast is asking us to make sure we're doing our part. And I want you to think about making sure your child is full by connecting with them. So remember my story of my mom being a filler of my cup and my brother's cup always. And then I told you we used to go to the babysitter's house, who not only was the babysitter, Miss Elaine, filling our pitcher, but so were her children. You know, they didn't do anything super duper special. And I'm asking you today as a mom, you don't have to do things that feel like so grandiose, right? You don't have to do those things. What you do have to do is read a book with them. Play with them, go for a walk, swing on a swing, go down the sliding board. Like, just be there with them. They enjoy it, and it is making sure the child is ready for school. Without us knowing it, sometimes what happens is that the behavior that our children are exhibiting, they're sometimes exhibiting that so that they can be seen. And so instead of seeing them when they're misbehaving, we want to see them just all around, all the time. So they won't have the need to sometimes display those behaviors in order to get our attention. And so since you're still listening to me, I want you to think with me about just maybe 5 ways that your child likes to be filled. And again, you might be a mom of some infants, toddlers, preschoolers, maybe some high school or middle school children. What do your children enjoy that you can think about in terms of filling them up? I want you to have a list of those things. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love drop some comments in on the comment over here on YouTube, or send me an email over if you're listening in audio format, just so we can hear each other. And like I tell you, I always promise to come back before our community and let people know what others are thinking. And so what do you do to fill your child up? Those things make sure your child is ready for school. And it decreases the opportunity for behaviors that others might find challenging. So once again, I take us back to the title of today's podcast. Miss Bruce, what piece of paper do you need me to sign to let me give you permission to beat her? Was what a parent said to me when we were dealing with some behaviors that we wanted all to address. And what I really fully knew about this little one is that she didn't need anything but somebody to see her. And so today's podcast, I thought, the whole world is talking about challenging behaviors. The number of students who are being expelled in preschool environments is ridiculous, and there are a number of factors that are contributing to it. But again, we're not going over that in today's podcast. And then those of us who are supporting students in the K-12 environment that are being suspended and expelled, there are a number of contributing factors. But one thing is very sure: all of those babies, all of those children want to be seen. And you got to make sure that you're helping your child to be seen and heard and understood. And you also want to make sure you're helping them to leave the house full, so that everybody else that fills into them is just overflow. It's just overflow, right? And then a child that is in overflow stage is a child that is going to use less challenging behaviors, and they're going to be ready learners, which is all what we want, right? Everybody wants that. All right, so something to think about before we end today's podcast is to spend quality time, make sure we're going for connections, and then I want you to be the biggest cheerleader your child has ever met. And I don't mean the mom or dad, because hey, dads, I know some dads are listening too. I don't want you to be that parent that's at the football game shouting and throwing stuff at that man out there that's giving up half his life to coach your little child. Like, stop hollering at them people. Stop hollering at them people. Now, I'm not talking about that, but I am talking about be the best encourager for your child. Because again, when I get this at home, everybody else that does it for me is just overflow. Because I already get this from my people who love me at home. And so let's just give an example of how this can look, okay? When I say encouragement, first thing I want you to think about is when you are encouraging your little one, I want you to get their eye contact first. I want you to get their eye contact first. So if you can, I want you to get down on your knees or bend down, and I want you to look directly at them. And why is it so important to get their attention? Because you want the encouragement to go from here to here. And if there are other things going on, that might not happen. So I want you to stop everything, get down to their level, look into their eye, get their attention, and begin this idea of pouring into them with encouragement. Now that you got their attention, I want you to be specific about whatever that is you're encouraging. So for example, Madison, come here. I love the way you're putting your laundry away. Thank you. Wonderful. I love it. I didn't say just good job to Madison. I got down to her eyes. I got her attention. I said, what you doing in here? She said, I'm putting away my laundry. I love the way you're putting away your laundry. Wonderful job. Back in the day, I might just go by her room and say, good job, good job. I didn't get her attention, so she don't know what good job I'm talking about. And it doesn't necessarily go from here to here because I wasn't super specific. And so instead, I'll get down to her level. I say, what you doing? She says, I'm putting my laundry away. I said, I love the way you're putting your laundry away. And what I don't say is this: that's better than you did last week. You see what I just did? You don't want to mix a compliment with a criticism. That doesn't work. It's just like somebody saying, you are so beautiful, but like whatever they're going to say after the beautiful part that got washed away. So when we are pouring into our babies so that they're in the state of overflow, we want to make sure we just stay in the compliment. I love the way you are putting your laundry away. This is amazing. That's better than you did last week. Leave that part out. Okay? And again, I know I've done it before. And I can tell when I'm doing it is when I'm in my own space, when I've had my own mess going on. And that's not fair to the child. So again, we're trying to get to the space where we're pouring into our babies, we're leaning into connection, we are complimenting them and encouraging them, and we're leaving any criticisms out. All right. And then finally, what you want to do as you're doing all of these things is, if you can, you want to go over and give her a big hug or a high five or something where there's a physical touch, because that's just the icing on the cake. If you can hug them, high five them, do something to encourage a physical touch, it's just another way to pour into them so that they are full, so they won't go out into the world looking to be filled. The people that share their same address have already started the process, and maybe a few other people as well. And then if there's some other people around, go ahead and brag on this baby in front of other people. So if Madison is putting away her laundry and when Dad gets home, I could say, you would never guess what Madison did today. And I'm not going to say that with her out of earshot. I'm going to say it right in front of her face. And she's going to beam, and Dad's going to say something. And I hope it's becoming clear, because even as I talk, I can feel it happening. You see what it does for the child, where they won't start doing this just to get these accolades from their people, but they'll start feeling good on the inside. And so intrinsically, they'll start doing it because this feels good. This feels good. And again, sometimes when I'm thinking about topics for our podcast, I think, boy, this is a really good one to have at the beginning of a school year. And the best thing about this podcast space is that it will run on forever, as long as God says so that I can run them back, or you can go back and listen to the ones that we did when you need the refresher or reminder. I was thinking about the number of children who are being expelled from preschool. And it made me want to do a podcast on not that particular topic, but what we can do as parents. Now, again, we'll continue to peel back this idea, and parenting is what we're doing on the Geriatric Mom podcast. But until I can see you and talk to you again, I want you to pay attention to the behavior. Continue to think about it with me. And as you're doing that, I want you to fill your baby up. I want you to connect with them as often as you can in ways that don't cost a lot of money, won't take a lot of time, but you do want to be intentional. So I want you to spend more time with them. And then I want you to encourage them as often as you can. And I want you to encourage effort, not just the end result, because maybe I studied and practiced those phonics with you all week, Mom, and I still don't know how to spell cat. But I'm trying. You might have given me 40 minutes because somebody told you got to give me time to put my shoes on. I've been trying to get these shoes on for 40 minutes and I still ain't got them on. But you can still encourage the behavior that you want. That's the bottom line from today's podcast. Encourage the behaviors more that you want to see. And some of those other behaviors will start to go into the background. All right? All right, so you know I didn't sign that piece of paper that mom gave me, right? I did not sign that piece of paper. What we did do is we partnered to try to do more connection so that this little girl could be seen, so she did not have to display behaviors that created her opportunities for her to be seen. All right, I hope this all makes sense. I look forward to seeing you in our next podcast. It takes a healthy village to raise healthy children. We're trying our best over here. And I hope that you're sharing and liking this so that we can stay in touch. All right, I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.